Hi, I'm Garth McKenzie from traderscorner.co.za. In this episode, I'm going to be looking at something that's very topical this week, and that, of course, is Tesla. The share price has gone absolutely ballistic over the last week or two and reached a high of almost $1,800 yesterday before pulling back very, very sharply. So let's dive into it and have a look at what the price has done recently and what I think it might do in the near term. So we start with a look at the daily chart of Tesla. And what's quite clearly evident here is that massive parabolic move to the upside over the last couple of weeks. And yesterday, a very big bearish candle occurred. And at one point, you can see on the chart there, it's labeled at one stage, the share price was up 16% and it ended the day down by 3%. So a very, very significant reversal over there. Now, this big break above $1,000 came only about 2 weeks ago, and the share price has rallied up 80% off that recent breakout. Very much driven by short covering and also driven by speculators, Robinhood account holders and the like that have been piling into the stock very, very aggressively. What's really notable for me is the volume spike that occurred yesterday. And you'll notice there was a similar volume spike that occurred in February of this year. Now, that volume spike is caused by two things. One, very, very aggressive short covering. At one stage last week, we read that there was $20 billion of short interest in this stock, the biggest short interest in a single stock ever. So you can imagine with the share price having rallied 80% off of the recent breakout area after the break above $1,000, there were some shorts experiencing an extreme amount of pain as the share price went higher. And as that happens, of course, those shorts get margin called and they're forced to buy back their stock. And that's what creates a big volume spike and a big parabolic move to the upside like what we saw yesterday. Now, these types of blow-off moves never last for very long. They always exhaust themselves and inevitably reverse down sharply, as what we saw yesterday. If we take a look at the hourly chart of Tesla here, you can see that trading action more clearly. You can see how there was an exhaustion gap to the upside yesterday. That saw the share price trading up 16% at one stage and then obviously ending the day down in negative territory. So a very, very meaningful reversal on the chart over there. From a downside perspective, support levels to watch. There's some support at $1,400. Then there's some gaps down at about $1,200 and at $1,130. And then, of course, that big area at about $1,000, which is where the share price broke out only about 8 or 9 days ago. And one can't rule out the possibility of the price actually going back down and revisiting those lower gaps and possibly even the $1,000 area at some point. Now, let's take a look at the anatomy of a bubble, if you like. And it shows on this diagram how a bubble typically inflates and then bursts. And I think that Tesla recently, it has exhibited bubble characteristics. It's not to say that it's the end forever, but it does seem as if the stock has the tendency to make these bubbles and then deflate and then blow them again and deflate. I suspect that we've recently blown a bubble and now it's beginning to pop and deflate, and we'll see some more consolidation in the near term for this share price over here. You can see on this diagram terms at the top of the peak there: greed, delusion, new paradigm, etc. These are probably all terms that are very relevant right now in the short term for Tesla. We've seen the big crack to the downside yesterday with the share price reversing. And what's quite possible is that we get a little bit of a bounce to the upside, but it's unable to then take out the recent high that we saw near $1,800. And that would be the clue then. If the price can't take out yesterday's high, the chances are then that it's going to start to come down, and we could then see it heading down into those lower areas that I spoke about. If we just take a look at the hourly chart one more time, there you can see the big reversal that we saw yesterday and those support levels that I've mentioned lower down. So my sense is that we've probably seen the bubble pop for the short term, and the price needs to consolidate and return to some sort of level of sanity. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a bear on the business of Tesla. I love the company, I love the innovation, I love the way they're disruptors in their market. It's an incredible business, but many of these incredible types of businesses do go through these phases where the share price just becomes detached from reality in the short term, and there needs to be some sort of a reconnection between reality and the share price. We've seen it with the likes of Apple and others. So it won't be surprising to see Tesla pulling back here in the near term as well.